I started managing females about 13 and a half years ago. So I'm going to say whatever I feel like saying whenever I want to say it because I did it when title fights were $3,000 and you were happy to get $3,000 for your fighter because they thought of female boxing as a sideshow. And I was the one that stuck with female boxing.
Hi and welcome to The Real Women of Boxing, episode 4. My name is Jacqui-Lee Pryce and today's guest, he's been a pivotal person in the development of women's boxing. I know we're going to catch some jokes today. Briancohen.
Thank you for having me, Jackie. I appreciate you.
It's good to see you. How you doing?
I'm doing, just, ripping and running per usual. But yeah, I'm doing well. By the way,
Awesome.
happy belated birthday to you.
Thank you very much. We were talking before we came on about the old nap situation.
Yeah, man, the older you get, the more naps you need. It's like you regress in life. When I was a kid, I needed naps. And when I was in my 20s, I was ripping and running. When my 30s, slow down. 40s, I need naps.
Naps, darling. Yeah, it's the way to go.
I need naps. All you little young Thundercats out there, when you hit 40, you're going to need naps.
It's all downhill.
Mm-hmm. It's a downward trajectory. Yep.
100%.
Yep.
So listen, weekend. Let's talk about a few of the fights at the weekend, or one of the fights in particular. Undisputed super middleweight star Edgar Berlanga took on Paddy McCrory, also unbeaten in the WBO and NABO super middleweight contest. Did you catch it?
I did catch it. Per your request, I caught it, I will say. Other than that, I was in a volleyball tournament with my daughter for 11 hours on Saturday. But no, I did catch it afterwards. I thought it was a good fight. I mean, Berlanga looked pretty good. His opponent was a worthy opponent. I looked up his opponent's record. It was a good fight for Berlanga. I think after this fight, I think that fight made him the mandatory, which is interesting, right? But if you go on BoxRec, fighters rated above Berlanga is David Benavidez, Jaime Munguia, Sergey Derevyanchenko, Christian Mobile, Caleb Plant, Demetrius Andrade, and David Morrell. I only think the only fight I don't think is interesting on that list is Andrade, because I think Demetrius should be a 154-pounder. I don't think he has no business fighting at 168. I think all those other fights are kind of interesting with Berlanga. I don't think we've seen him gut a fight out yet. Like he hasn't been in a career-defining fight yet. Although he's still young, I think he needs a test. He needs a good veteran. He needs a Caleb Plant type of fight to just measure exactly where he is at with a good American style opponent. I mean, or a stronger guy that I've seen in person who's an absolute monster is signed to Eye to Tiger Promotion is that Christian Mobile. He's a monster. The kid is a monster. So I think it would be an interesting fight. I don't know if he's going to sit around and wait for the Canelo fight, because I'm told Canelo is supposed to fight Munguia. So I would like to see Berlanga in a tough fight to see how he reacts, see how his mental is. Can he push past a certain point without biting somebody, without getting frustrated? So that's it's a good fight for him. Not to take nothing away from him, but I like to see him pushed a little bit.
When you said it's an interesting position that he's in now, I was wondering if and I don't want to put words into your mouth, he is now, isn't he, in line to fight Canelo? Do you actually think he's ready to step up to that level?
No, I think it's almost if you reverse it as Canelo fighting Floyd, right? I don't think that he's mature enough. I don't think he has enough rounds in the bank. I think he'll get schooled by Canelo. I mean, it will be, I don't even think it will be close, to be fair. I think the only thing that would keep the fight interesting would be his power. But, Canelo has fought a lot bigger, a lot stronger guys than Berlanga's. I would wait, to be honest with you. And that's what I'm saying. If I was managing him, I would get him another fight or two just to to get him put him in with a good veteran, but a good veteran, obviously you want to make it a 70-30 fight for Berlanga. But that's what I would do with him. I won't put him in with Canelo. I think it's way too soon for him, and I think he'll get schooled.
Hope you're enjoying our content. If so, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you know when our new content drops.
I have to agree. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't really know that much about him, so I checked him out just before this podcast. What I will say is, he's been built up to be this big superstar. And there were a lot of flaws. I thought it was a great fight, but there were a lot of flaws that I saw that I was like, oh, Canelo? Not sure. He struggles with his distance, and I don't know if that was because apparently he's been off since, I think, 2022. He starts his attacks from way too far out. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then I think it was a mature performance in the sense that he was patient.
Yeah.
I know everyone talks about that he's got this big, knockout ratio, but he was really patient. And even when he went in, I think it was in the 6th round to try and take out McCrory.
Yeah.
He was still patient in his attacks and his double attacks. But I thought there were little things that still need fixing.
Yeah. Yeah.
To fight somebody like Canelo, do you know what I mean? And I don't mean any disrespect to him. It's just, I don't think it's a full package.
No, I completely agree, right? So if you're not learning in the fights, you should be learning in the gym, right? I don't think a lot of those 16 fights early on did him any justice, right? 16 first-round knockouts is 16 first-round knockouts. You're not getting any rounds in the bank. You're not, getting that veteran experience. Over the last few fights, he's been going the distance. So you start seeing him mature a little bit more and more each fight, like you said. But there's little gaps and holes in his game that if he had more rounds in the bank, he could probably clean it up and possibly compete with Canelo. You know what I mean? But I would wait a year and a half. Let Canelo get into another good fight. You know what I mean? You might catch Canelo getting old one night. You never know.
I thought McCrory was stamping his authority on him in the first sort of, 3 to 4 rounds, to be fair. And if he was at that level to fight Canelo, that shouldn't really happen.
No, he shouldn't. I mean, he gave a good account. McCrory gave a good account of himself, right? But you don't let a guy like that in there that you're in talks fighting Canelo give a good account of himself. You kind of like run through him. You know what I mean? Like Mexican food on a Friday night. You got to kind of like run through a guy like that. You can't leave a guy like that lingering around for all those rounds.
So I've never heard that saying before in my life. That's jokes. Run through it like Mexican food on a Friday night. I'll remember that. It might not translate well if I do it here though.
I mean, you just think about what happened Saturday morning after you eat the meal. You know what I mean?
I hear you. Yes, the shit talk has started.
I'm getting primed up.
Yeah, nice. I like it. You get your second win now. You've had a coffee.
Yeah, it brings me back. Some Cafe Bustelo. You put that little extra, that scoop and 3/4 in there, and primes you all the way up. Woo! Get you all sweaty and whatnot.
I hear you. So yeah, completely thrown me off.
I'm sorry.
I did enjoy the fight, like I said, and I think we both kind of agree. Great little fight. Eventually got the KO in the 6th round. But for my taste, I think it just needs a little bit more tweaking and tightening up.
Put him in with 2 veterans, or maybe you throw him in with like a Caleb Plant just to see where he's sitting at and go from there, man. I mean, because Canelo will embarrass you. Break your spirit, break your will. Once you get in there, and you're used to having your way with these people, then you get in there with a guy like Canelo. It's a whole different ballgame. It's a whole different ballgame.
And why rush? To be fair, why rush? I know the money is probably just steps ahead fighting someone like Canelo, but to me, we all know how this industry is. As soon as you lose a fight, they put you on a pedestal and then they whip away that pedestal as soon as you lose. So to me, why even go in right now?
Right. So why ruin the brand, basically, right? So you don't want to, he's a monster, he's a beast. You don't want to ruin the brand. I mean, and if you have control and if you have if you have say so in the promotion, you fight a guy like Caleb Plant. Caleb Plant, what? Has a beautiful jab, right? Has great movement, right? You're the promoter's fighter. Get a smaller ring. You're a puncher. You know what I mean? Little things like that. Don't ruin the brand, and try to stack the deck in your favor against these veterans and whatnot. I think he needs two more fights, and he, like you said, needs to tighten some nuts and bolts up in the camp, and maybe get a second set of eyes on him. Not even sure who's training him. I really didn't look at the corner work. I kept fast forwarding. Don't even know who's.
To be fair, I think, and don't quote me on this because I wasn't. Usually, I turned down, and I kind of was dipping in and out. But someone was saying something. It sounded like, and I could be wrong, that he is either with a new trainer or gone back to an old trainer. Okay. So I don't know which.
I didn't. To be fair, I usually do watch the in between rounds, but I was just trying to expedite the fight as quickly as I can. Again, it's no disrespect to a trainer. If you bring in a second set of eyes, you always need a second set of eyes. It's always good to have a co-trainer, a guy that does pads, a guy that does game plans, things like that. And at this level, you need another guy. You can't do everything yourself. If I'm doing pad work with a fighter, the main trainer is sitting outside watching on the outside of the ring, you get a better benefit, right? Oh, when you're jabbing, you're rolling your hand. You're not bringing your right hand straight out enough. You're not bringing your elbow up high enough on the hook. You can't really see that with pads. You can see big mistakes with pads, but you can't see everything. You can't see their feet all the time, unless you're specifically looking on their feet. But if there's a guy on the outside, that can see everything. So, I mean, in these cases, I think, a second set of eyes would do wonders, especially if you're talking about, fighting one of the best fighters of our era, Canelo.
It's interesting you say that because obviously I come from the amateur scene and there are several sets of eyes, sometimes too many sets of eyes and hands on a fighter. But when obviously people get to kind of international level, you've got a set team around people, and no one really gets offended when you have to be careful about going into someone's space and overstepping the mark. Of course you shouldn't do that, but if you're involved with that fighter, I personally as a trainer don't see the problem with someone saying, listen, they do X, Y, and Z when they do this, when they throw that.
So here's the thing, and this is, I love the UK, and I always say UK fans, Mexican fans, American fans. I always think the UK, the fans are so knowledgeable out there. And if you go to any fight, like any little local fight at like your hall or somewhere like that, there's so many fans and so many knowledgeable fans. I'm going to say that to say this, actually. The trainers in the UK, some of them are very egocentric. They don't, it's their way or the highway. They don't like the second set of eyes. And I just think that for the better good of the team, if that fighter needs that, accept it and just go with it. It's no harm in bringing in a co-trainer. It's no harm in bringing in, because ultimately it's the fighter who suffers. The fighter's in there taking the punches. The other one, the fighter's in there getting punched in the face, getting hit to the body, has to make weight, has to go to bed a certain time, has to maintain a certain diet, right? It's not the trainer, right? And especially if you get a trainer that hasn't fought before. You know what I mean? That's even worse. But I noticed it a lot in the UK, with the whole it's my way or the highway type of thing. And I don't think it's good for the fighter. I think if a second set of eyes, and if you can all work collectively as a unit and just keep in mind that the fighter is the main person that you're focusing on, not egos, this trainer is righter than this trainer, or you know what I'm saying? If you all can get on the same page, you can catch magic in a bottle, right? But it's difficult to do because there's a lot of egos in this game.
It is difficult. And here's the thing. You don't want to come in and try and overstep the mark and, mash up the energy in the room. Because ultimately, like you say, it's about the fighter. But this is something that I learned. I don't know if it's the same in the States. So as an amateur coach, you have to go through, when you get to your first level of coaching, and bearing in mind you have to do, a written test, and you also have to do like pad work and stuff like that. So you have 2 exams. And then you have to stay at a certain level before you can go up to level 2, and then you have to be invited to level 3 and 4. What I heard is you don't learn the technical side when you go to become a professional coach. All you do is you go and you answer some questions. And so therefore you're going to have some people that are fighters or ex-fighters, have been amateurs, that have come up through the game, that take all of that knowledge that they've learned in the amateur scene. And I'm not saying they're the same sport. I know they're not the same sport. But just for argument's sake, they bring all of this information with them. And then you've got other trainers that are, let's say, have never had any experience, but and maybe this is an ego thing. They so want to be involved in boxing. And I don't have a problem with that. But learn your trade. I had to learn my trade. And the thing is, like you say, the fighter suffers. I don't know if it's just a British thing, but I tend to agree with you that it happens because you can see it.
Yeah.
You can see it. And the fact of the matter is that's about ego, and that's about the trainer, and that actually becomes about them rather than the fighter. And if it was me employing a trainer, this is just me personally, and the trainer didn't want to listen to outside influences, I don't care who they are, I'm going to be honest, I don't care, then I wouldn't because effectively the boxer is employing the trainer.
Right. You have to look at it like this. Does this person have my best interest at hand, or are they just stroking their own ego? And whenever you have in anything, basically anything in life, if somebody's just in it to stroke their own ego, they got to go. They really have to go. I don't have any time for it. I got into it with a trainer this morning.
Hope you're enjoying our content. If so, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you know when our new content drops.
We're waiting for a fight date. We don't have the fight date. Our fight has already been approved by a sanctioning body, right? Keeps calling me for a fight date. I said, hey, we don't have a fight date yet, but how about you work on this, the game plan, the punches that will work against this fighter, getting my fighter's conditioning in shape, working on her reaction time. We know we're fighting the fighter. We just don't know when. And, I got told that I know how to train my fighter. I don't need your help. Last time I say something. So now the next thing you'll hear from me is the fight date and when to get on an airplane. I'm not a manager that likes to sit behind a desk with a stupid pen in my hand, keep my little stupid glasses on and shit like that. I like to win, right? And if I can do anything to help the team and the cause to win, I'm going to do whatever I can. If a fighter needs to come, and I'm sure Kali would tell you, if a fighter needs to come and stay in our house, they'll come and stay in our house. If a fighter, you know what I'm saying? I'll do whatever to help a fighter because for one, I like to win. You know what I mean? For two, the fighter's in there fighting. So if the fighter, needs something from me that the trainer may not be giving, or, I'm going to help. If my help is not needed, no problem. You'll get the fight date. I'll send the tickets. Send me my percentage. And I'm not that type of manager. I'm not like, give me my X amount of percent. No, I want to win. You know what I'm saying? So, but hey, I had to go through this morning, and it's just, it blows my mind the way people think, because I'm not telling you how to train a fighter. Hey, we don't have a date yet, but perhaps work on this. You and your fighter sat down and watched film together? Have you sat and watched the fighter? Hey, have you noticed the fighter, your opponent's tendencies? Do you notice her habits? Little things like that. It helps, and it shows the fighter that you're engaged in the fight. Okay, you don't have the fight data. We're already approved for the title from a sanctioning body. You know what I mean? But hey, it goes. Sometimes it boils down to ego. It boils down to ego.
It made me laugh when you went, this morning I got into it with a coach, and I'm thinking, Brian, you got into it with someone? But you're absolutely right. Listen, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter when there's a date. Just you do your job. Not being funny. You do your job. Just prepare your fighter, right? You do your job and I'll do mine. But one thing I will say, just as I remember, somebody that gets a lot of flack here for being a PT trainer or a sort of, because he's not been around a long time, etc., is Ben Davison. And something I know about Ben Davison, and I've never spoken to the guy, right? I've listened to his interviews and stuff, but I know quite a few fighters that have been to his gym to train and coaches, and they all say there's another set of eyes in that corner with him, even in sparring.
Yeah. I mean, again, you need it. You just need it. You can't. And when I was training Kali, right, I had to bring in somebody else. You know what I mean? I had to. You know, I do pad work a certain way. I like technical pad work. I don't like the pity pat stuff. You know, that everybody's doing all this crazy stuff. I don't like it. Right? Is it good for like maybe reaction time or a workout? Yeah. Do you get something from it? Maybe. I don't like it. So, you know, she likes it. So no problem. I'll find a guy that does that type of pad work. You know what I mean? But I also found a guy that I respect.
Pads. We call it
right? I mean, it's the pity pat bullshit, right? But I found a guy that I respect, and he doesn't just do pity pat pad work. He's a guy like me. We just want to win. He's a Philly guy. You know, his name is Rasheem Jefferson, right? So he used to fight. He was, you know, he had 16 pro fights. He was like 15-1. The only reason why he stopped boxing is he was in a motorcycle accident, right? Really good guy, really good, knowledgeable. He's probably one of the best trainers here in the city, but I respect him, right? And I think it comes down to respect. So if you don't respect that second set of eyes, you know what I mean? Find somebody like, you know, and I give this advice to anybody. If your trainer is not open for help, or if things are not working with you and your trainer, you have to open your mouth, because you're the one in there getting taking the punches, taking the blows and stuff. If your trainer is not being attentive to you, I'm not trying to tell you to be disrespectful, leave your trainer, because I hate fighters that jump from trainer to trainer, right? Have a conversation. If the conversation don't work, have another conversation. If it don't work, then you bounce. You know what I mean? That's the advice I would give to some fighters, because I just see it time and time again that they complain about the trainer, then they'll just leave. Sometimes a general conversation would just, you know what I'm saying, it will work.
Either have the conversation or, you know, stop moaning about it, as far as I'm concerned. But equally, I agree, there's a lot of people that just jump around. Listen, this is a business. So if two people, and it might just be that those two people don't gel together. If you don't gel together, you don't work together. Well, thank you very much. Just do it in the right way.
I mean, I just had a fighter. You know, I'm sure you know her. She lives out there. Her and the trainer didn't gel at all.
Now I want to know who it is. Tell me after.
They just did, but it's nothing against the trainer, right? And it's nothing against the fighter. They just didn't gel. You just have to. If you don't have chemistry, you don't have chemistry. Like being in a relationship, you don't have chemistry with the person. You don't have chemistry with the person.
Yes.
So that's what I try to tell all fighters. If you don't have chemistry with the trainer, with the manager, it's just not the right fit. And unfortunately, she paid the price for it, but she learned a lesson. Unfortunately, it was a hard lesson to learn. But she kind of learned a lesson from it, and it should help her in the future. No, don't just do things for convenience and things like that. You know what I mean? Make sure you gel with that trainer.
Before we get on to you, Dina Thorsland. She beat Mary Moreo in a unified fight at the weekend. Mary was a late opponent. Now, last week I had on Caroline Dubois, and we were thinking of possible opponents for Dina, because we kind of thought that she was going to come through. I think she was supposed to be fighting
Satan.
Satan. Yeah, right. And I actually don't know what happened. So by the time the podcast came out, she's now replaced with Mary Romeo. So we were thinking of possible good fights for her, right? Because we were saying, she should be fighting on bigger platforms. I'd love to see her here. I've interviewed her. I think she's a great girl. Caroline knows her. You've just taken on Joanna Wanu, and we discussed her, and we thought she would be an absolutely brilliant opponent for Dina Thorsland.
Well, let me start by saying,
just putting it out there. Just putting it out there. Joanna won
Yes,
you, so you have taken her on, have you not?
So I have a little joke, and then I'm going to answer your question. Ready? Right? Knock knock.
Who's there?
Dina.
Dina. Who?
Exactly.
Come on, man. That's cold.
Exactly.
That's cold.
Dina who?
Interestingly, we did say she doesn't have a big platform outside of her country.
Nobody.
We did say that.
Jackie, nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Wow.
Nobody cares. Nobody cares. You go there, and I think her matchmaker is Thomas Madsen, I think his name is. And he called me one time, and I was working with another Australian fighter. It wasn't Ebony. He offered me like $6,000 to fight for 2 titles, right? Nobody is going to that country to fight for $6,000. I don't know what they paid Romero or anything like that, but nobody cares. And like, to be fair, I wouldn't put any of my fighters in there without any type of serious drug testing, like VADA testing or WADA testing or anything like that. I mean, if you look at her, sometimes she has a thicker beard than me. So I know her manager. I know Lee Eaton. This is not to be disrespectful to anybody. I'm not even trying to be humorous or anything like that. But nobody's going over there to fight her. Nobody over here like really cares about her. I mean, when Ebony had the title, we didn't even really talk about it because what was the point? You know what I mean? She doesn't bring anything to the table. She's great in, what is it, Denmark?
Sweden.
Denmark.
Am I right? Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's great. You know, she can be the local unified champion there, but what does she bring to the table here? Nothing. Nobody knows her. She only fought out of Sweden, 2 times in her career?
But you say that, so let me just have a little look. Dina thought, you say that. So this was the other thing that we kind of said, right, last week. So, is that a Swedish flag? No, she's from Denmark. You're absolutely right. She's from Denmark. So you've just mentioned Ebony Bridges. Ebony Bridges, obviously, former world champion. She's no longer a champion. I'm guessing she wants to get back into onto that world stage. Would that not be someone who you would consider now?
I wouldn't go to Denmark and fight her. I wouldn't go anywhere. I wouldn't fight her in her home country. I wouldn't fight her in her hometown. I wouldn't do it, and I wouldn't do it without some type of testing. I just wouldn't. I've been to those kind of countries. I know what they do for their fighters there. I'm not going there. Ebony doesn't need the money. You know what I mean? If Matchroom wants to bring Dina here at a certain point for Ebony, they can. But other than that, that fight doesn't interest me. The fight with Joanna, I mean, really, I don't want to set her up for failure either. You know what I mean? I have Jamie Mitchell. I wouldn't put Jamie Mitchell in with her. It's not that she's scary or nobody's scared of her. I just wouldn't go there to fight, and I wouldn't go out there with. And I'm not implying anything. It's just my own personal thing. I'm not saying she's doing any type of performance enhancing, but I'm not. I'm saying it, but I'm not saying it. Right? I would just like some
You're
sort.
saying allegedly. That's what you're saying.
I would love some sort of testing because there's some certain things that you see on a person's body that would imply that it's not all natural, is what I'm saying. And that's not me being an overly sensitive manager. That's just me protecting my fighter.
So yeah, so what I'm hearing you saying, it's literally no one. You're not going to allow anyone.
I mean, for what?
Outside
for what? Like, why would I want to go there and intentionally? You know, the card's already stacked against you. I mean, if you look at some of her title defenses, it's all the same judges. It's the same referees. I mean, it's like you're fighting her family members over there. So you're fighting everybody. You're not going to get the decision. You're going to have to basically kill her to win. You know what I mean? Even if you knock her down every round, you're lucky to get a draw. For what? And she doesn't bring... You know, once you have those titles, what do you do with them? The cash cow right now in the division doesn't have a title, right? That's Ebony. Ebony's the cash cow in that division. There's nobody else.
You didn't have to explain that.
Yeah. I mean, there's nobody else that generates more money than Ebony Bridges, right? I mean, the fight could have been made. I think Lee Eaton at one point had Nina Hughes. Why didn't he bring Nina Hughes over there to fight her? And you know what I mean? and unify.
That was a question that we did ask last week
Right.
as well.
I mean, there's Amanda Galley. Amanda Galley could have fought her. Galley has the IBO title, you know? So, I mean, I don't know, man. I just don't think anybody wants to go over there. Nobody, I mean, nobody wants to go over there to fight her. I just think that there's more risk than reward. So what that she has, you know, her stupid little titles? You know, nobody really cares.
Yeah, it's interesting hearing it from your point of view, because we did wonder why she A, wasn't getting opportunities, and B, fighting outside. I just presumed that she hadn't been asked to fight outside of Denver.
If I'm a promoter and what does she have? She has the WBC and WBO titles.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, I can do without them. I don't really care. She can keep them over there. You know what I mean? There's no point of going over there to fight her. Like I said, there's no, you know, even as far as from a matchroom perspective, right? Unless they were doing a 118-pound tournament, there's no reason to have her around. She's not going to bring the viewership up. You know, like let's say you put in Dina Thorslund with Nina Hughes. Nina Hughes doesn't draw any type of fanfare either. You know what I mean?
I thought she did. Obviously, if you're looking at her versus probably Ebony, no, she's probably not going to bring that. But she is well known, Nina, within the boxing community in the UK.
She's well known, but what does she generate? Like when Ebony fights, you can see the viewerships go up. You can see. I mean, she had a title defense, Nina Hughes, on a Matchroom card. You know what I mean?
To be fair, I don't think you can compare the two, because Ebony is almost like a personality. I'm not saying she's not a boxer, but she's almost like a personality. So of course she's going to have a different viewership.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? So I'm not saying that she hasn't got that viewership, but I don't think. Again, I could be wrong. Brian, but I don't think. Listen, she's never going to generate. No, let me rephrase. At this point in her career, she's not generating the same kind of bums on seats as Ebony Bridges. And there's various reasons, let's be fair, why that happens. But at the end of the day, I think that'd be a nice fight.
But Jackie, let me say this to you to say that. And I think Nina Hughes is a lovely lady, right? I don't have any ill will towards her or anything like that, right? I think she's a really, really nice person. What has she done to try to generate or try to enhance her image or try? You can't just get a title, sit back, and think shit is going to be handed to you. It just doesn't work like that. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, what type of publicity has she taken? You know, what she had? I mean, I didn't hear anything from her. I didn't hear anything. You know, she wasn't calling anybody out. I mean, just because you make a couple of little stupid social media posts here and there sporadically, calling this one out, calling that one out, that's not going to get done, boo. You know what I mean? You have to go on like a full campaign mode. Yo, I want to fight Shannon Courtney. Shannon Courtney would be a nice fight with Nina Hughes, right? I want to fight Ebony Bridges. Hey, Matchroom, let me fight Amanda Galley here. Let me unify the BO and the BA titles. You know, things like that. I don't know. I think if you want something, I think you need to work hard for it. I don't think she worked hard enough. You know, now she's in a shitty position where she's going to Australia and she's going to lose her title for some shit money against Sugar Neeks. So you kind of painted yourself into a corner, in my opinion. You know what I mean?
I agree. Nowadays, definitely have to get on social. Listen, for some people, they're not comfortable in that sort of space. And to be fair, if I could be involved with boxing without being involved on social media all day long, but we have to, you're right, we have to move with the times. And there are just so many people that are going to push for those fights. I think Kali said the other week about how Caroline Dubois is getting a little bit chirpy. She's not a fool.
Yeah.
She knows that's also, listen, she can fight all day long. In my opinion, she's one of the most talented individuals in female boxing today.
I agree.
She's not going to get fights on that, or she's not going to get the level of fight she wants on just sitting back.
So, Jackie, I'm put it like this, right? If you have a car and you want to sell a car, right? You write an arbitrary number and stick a little piece of paper in your windshield, right? And then you park the car in your driveway. Who's going to see it? It's the same thing. You know what I mean? You can have a title, you can have all these skills, but if nobody knows you're there, nobody's going to buy it. So I think that was where Nina Hughes fell short and kind of, like I said, put herself in a shitty position. She could agree with me, not agree with me. I'm not saying it from there's no malicious intent. Like I said, I think she's a lovely woman. You put yourself in a bad position. You sign with Lou DiBella, Lou, I do a lot of business with Lou, so I'm not talking bad about him. But you sign a contract with Lou, but you're also going to Australia to fight Lou's fighter. So he's in a win-win-win situation, right? So what does he care if you lose? You know what I mean? He'll probably release you right after you lose. You know what I mean? I mean, I hope she doesn't, and I'm not, wishing anything bad on her, but, you've now made a 50-50 fight into, almost a 65-45 fight, going over there to the person's hometown, especially Australia. Australia, it's not a haven of civility over there either when it comes to being honest in the boxing world. So
I don't think you're being out of order by saying, and this is the thing. Listen, we're involved in the sport, and as a coach, as a manager, and myself as a trainer, we are used to critiquing certain things within the game. And what I find quite astonishing sometimes is if you say one thing that doesn't agree with somebody else, then all of a sudden, like,
that's what you said to me. You said, "Oh, Briancohen didn't agree with somebody." Listen, I'm very opinionated. I am opinionated. I know I'm opinionated, but you know what? I have time in this game. I started boxing when I was 8 years old. Pardon me. No, God, how old am I going to be? God, I'm going to be 48.
Yeah, how old are you?
Right? I'll be 48 this year. So I almost got 40 years in this game. I manage the most females in the world. So yeah, am I opinionated? Yeah, a little bit, poquito. You know what I mean? A little bit. I'm a little opinionated, but I have every right to be opinionated because I know what I'm talking about. I fought, I promoted, I did cuts, I matchmade. There's not a thing in this sport that I haven't done that wouldn't make me an expert on anything that I say. And whatever I say is no bullshit. I don't scratch my head if it don't itch, and I don't dance if there's no music, and nobody's going to tell me that my opinion ain't worth anything.
If they don't agree, they just don't have to agree. You're talking from a place of experience.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Jackie, I was in the trenches for the females. I was the one putting together all female cards. Before it was cool to do on Matchroom, before it was cool to do on Boxer, before anybody thought it was cool, I was, losing money to put females on cards. So I started managing guys so I wouldn't come in with a total loss, right? I was in the trenches way back when. You know what I mean? So nobody could tell me anything about this sport. I've evolved with it. Don't get me wrong, right? Now I obviously know females get paid a lot more than they did, but I'm telling you, $3,000 for a title fight is what you got, about 12, 13 years ago. And you were happy to get it. Or you were asked by the promoter if I asked one, to put one of my females on, oh, do they look like a 13-year-old boy or not? Right? They don't want nobody in, what should that matter if they can fight? And that was the fight that I had to go through 13 years ago. You know what I mean? And that's, sometimes you still go through it a little bit now, but, it's gotten a lot better. But that's why I'm so opinionated. And then you get these new people that come into the sport and these new promoters that come into the sport that think they know more than you. And whatever I forgot yesterday, they're not going to know in the next 10 years. 100%. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that's my little rant.